Good evening and welcome to the Board of Education regular meeting. It is Wednesday, January 14th. Are we in compliance with open meeting laws?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Wyman.
Here.
DeWitt. Here. Ford.
Here.
Herzog.
Here.
Hess.
Here.
Smeltney.
Here.
Wright.
Here.
We have a quorum.
And now if you all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Davis, the land acknowledgement.
Yes, as we gather today, we would like to acknowledge that in Oshkosh, we are on the ancestral homelands of the Ho-Chunk Nation and the Menominee Indian Tribe of Wisconsin, who lived along the western shore of Lake Winnebago, Wisconsin's largest freshwater lake entirely within its borders. We acknowledge these indigenous sovereign communities who have stewarded this land throughout the generations and pay respect to their elders, past and present. We welcome the duty and opportunity to share stewardship of these lands.
Thank you. Approval of agenda. Is there anyone that would like to move any of the items on this evening's agenda?
I'd like to move the consent agenda to immediately following the approval of this agenda, so the next order of business. And then also that we would vote on any items that are pulled for individually considered items from there right after the vote on the consent agenda, not where they would normally be with the other individually considered resolutions later in the meeting.
Okay, so let's check for understanding. You would like to move the consent agenda to the next topic, and along with that, continue on with the individually considered resolutions.
Only the
If
item
they're
that is
pulled.
pulled from, and the reason for this, just to be clear to everyone, is that we have a policy that is related to the public comment section, and we were hoping, and this came up in the last board meeting, there may be modifications to that to ensure it's very clear that anyone is welcome to speak at the meeting tonight. It's modifying some of the language to make it more clear instead of talking about some individual groups.
I have a question on that. Are you suggesting that we do the public forum after voting on the consent resolution?
Yes, because to allow us to be doing the consent agenda, doing the public forum under the new language if it passes. So that we don't need to suspend it like we did last time.
I hear what you're saying. I got it now. Thank you.
I'll second that.
And actually, we don't need to second it to
And
the
I
agenda.
withdraw my second.
So sorry.
As per Eileen, so we are good.
Thank you, Eileen.
Okay.
So then we just do the consent agenda next.
Yep, and then if anyone pulls any.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd like to pull the third item, policy 0167.3, public forum.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with number 3
We need a
being
second.
pulled?
So Ford made the motion to pull third.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Oh, got it. Call the roll.
DeWitt.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Herzog.
Aye.
Hess.
Aye.
Smeltney.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Wyman.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Keep track of us, that's good. Okay, is there a motion for the consent resolution?
So move, Barb.
Second, Kelly.
And this is just the consent agenda.
This is
Just
consent
consent.
agenda.
Ford.
Aye.
Herzog.
Aye.
Hess.
Aye.
Smeltney.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Wyman.
Aye.
DeWitt. Aye. Consent resolution carries.
Thank you. Now, is there a motion for number 3, policy 0167.3?
So moved.
Second. Right.
Yeah, and just real quickly, I pulled this because it's a topic that's come up a few times in community discussion, and it deals with how stakeholders interact with this body. In our last December meeting, Mrs. Smeltnick pointed out that technically our policy wouldn't allow staff who didn't live in the district to testify to this board. And to her credit, we waived the rules that last meeting, and we agreed to revisit this policy. We did that at our last policy and governance meeting. There, I shared my belief that any attempt to pick and choose who gets to address a governing body like this is bound to stifle somebody's speech. Dr. Hess, Mrs. Speltnick, and I came up with new language that no longer limits who can speak, but does state that the priority will be given to residents of OASD, those with students in the district, and employees. That way, anyone can come and speak, But if we're dealing with an issue where we have a large amount of speakers, we can make sure that those with direct OSD, stake in OSD directly, aren't deprived of a chance to speak. Am I accurately reflecting what we decided? All right, so I'm happy to support this, but I want to at least explain that to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Any other comments, discussion? Call the roll.
Herzog.
Aye.
Hess.
Aye.
Smolley.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Wyman.
Aye.
DeWitt. Aye. Ford.
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, we will now move back to the agenda for board administrative reports. First is the president's report, and I have a wonderful mission moment. And our mission moment is Sydney Butts. She was a 2022 Oshkosh West High School graduate attending Indiana University located in Bloomington, Indiana. Sydney is pursuing her dream of becoming an optometrist. She'll be graduating with her bachelor's degree in May and beginning graduate school for optometry this fall. As a performer with IU's esteemed marching band, the Marching 100, Sydney is Indiana University's first featured twirler in 28 years and is wrapping up her final season. What a season it has been. She recently performed at the college football playoff game at the Rose Bowl, and maybe you saw her on TV. And she'll be performing at the College National Football Championship game in Miami on Monday, January 19th, next Monday. Tune in to watch her perform to a worldwide audience. Prior to attending Indiana University, she built a strong foundation of academic success and service through the Oshkosh Area School District's advanced academic programming and numerous activities. Throughout her time at Oshkosh West, Sydney was involved in many clubs and organizations, including Global Academy, Mock Trial, Track and Field, Twirling, Spanish Club, along with leading the Student Council and Rotary Clubs. Sydney was also an avid volunteer throughout the Oshkosh community, lending a hand to help various organizations such as the Day by Day Shelter, St. Raphael Archangel Catholic Church, and Father Carr's Place to Be. We are so proud of Sydney, and we can't wait to see optometry, what the future holds for her. And this is another example of a wonderful graduate, a product of the Oshkosh Area School District that we wanted to highlight. So congratulations, Sydney.
Great.
And now we have retirements, and we have a list of retirements tonight. First one is Mary Brenzel. She's a cross-categorical teacher at Menominee Elementary School, and she's been with the district since 2000. Deborah Chapin, Assistant Controller, Central Office, been with the district since 2023. Marnie DePoe, School Nurse, Vel Phillips Middle School, Emmeline Cook Elementary School, since 2017. Stacy Frank, Cross-Categorical Teacher, Carl Traeger Middle School, since 2002. Linda Jeffers, Art Teacher, Oshkosh West High School, since 1999. Kelly Handy, Controller, Central Office, since 2009. Joseph Hiptas, Technology and Engineering Teacher at Vel Phillips Middle School, since 2023. Robert Curl, School Counselor at Oshkosh West High School, since 2003. Angela Kesey, Media Support Teacher. She was at South Park Middle School, Jefferson, and Reed Elementary School, since 2000. Kenneth Levine, Mathematics Teacher, Oshkosh West High School, since 1990. Jean Manicki, SEL Coordinator, district-wide, since 2016. Kevin Meyer, Social Studies Teacher at South Park Middle School, since 1994. Marlo Osmond, Grade 3 Teacher, Franklin Elementary School, 1994. Suzanne Rommelfanger, Kindergarten Teacher, Emmeline Cook Elementary School, 2023. Jason Riff, Art Teacher, Oshkosh West High School, 1998. John Sikora, Cross-Categorical Teacher, the WIT and the WIN Program, 2016. And Kurt Van Thiel, Social Studies Teacher, Perry Tipler Middle School, since 1998. That is quite a list of accomplished teachers. We thank them for everything they have given to our students and to our district. Dr. Herzog.
Thank you, Mrs. Wyman. When I saw this list, I was somewhat overwhelmed by, first of all, the length of the list, but also the names that appeared. During my time as a central office administrator here, I had the opportunity to visit many of these classrooms. And I'll keep saying it, we have some of the finest teachers in the state of Wisconsin in this district, and this list is representative of that cadre of excellence that we have in our classrooms and in our schools. Mary Brenzel had been previously at Washington Elementary School and was well respected over there. Stacy Frank at Carl Traeger. I'm not sure where she was before Carl Traeger, but maybe she was there the entire time. But seeing the names of Linda Jeffers and Jason Riff, those are two examples of teachers who go above and beyond. They've both been heavily involved in the Altrusa Club's Art in the Garden program. On their own time, they take student artwork from the two high schools and they put up displays for that fundraiser for Altrusa. It's a juried or a voted upon situation where our students win awards. And when you go then to the high schools in May, when each one puts up an art display, usually in conjunction with a music concert, those students proudly display those ribbons that they won at the art contest. So those teachers bring those pieces of art in on their own time, set them up, take them down, take everything back to the schools, and for the students who weren't able to attend the awards program, they make sure they get the awards. Just, again, two examples of our many, many teachers who go above and beyond. Rob Curl has been a well-respected counselor at West High for over 20 years. Ken Levine, not only a math teacher, but known for his coaching acumen as well. Kevin Meyer and Kurt Van Thiel, like myself, now they will be former social studies teachers like me. Marlo Osmond has been a well-respected Franklin teacher, and at the risk of omitting some of the names, I apologize. Kelly Handy has been just wonderful to work with in the business department. I've worked with her not only in terms of district business, but with Project SOAR to get hands-on arts education into the schools through that private enterprise. So to all of these people, I first of all want to thank you so much for all you've done for our students, our families, in this community. Wish you all a long, healthy, and happy retirement. And just a reminder, we're always in need of substitute teachers. So thank you.
I hope this gives Jason Riff a little more time to run through the city. You see him running absolutely everywhere.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know these people as many of them individually as Barb does, but I can tell you that some of these people are my neighbors, they're my friends, they're my friends' friends, and they've supported my friends through some really difficult times. They're outstanding teachers, counselors, nurses, and I think it's fair to talk about Marnie just a little bit of, you don't think about nursing staff kind of all the extra things they do. She's played a really key role in helping build the climate and culture through Webster and Merrill consolidation into Val Phillips. And there's a lot of unsung heroes like that. And you know, they taught my kids. There's so many people on this list who've taught my kids. But the one story I wanted to mention a story about Jason and Linda as art teachers, and also Jason literally running all over the city. The first time I met him was when he was the he was the lead runner for a fundraiser for, I think it was Webster Elementary, possibly Webster Middle, trying to get new chairs for the auditorium. But they had a pace-setter bike who happened to be ridden by Gordon Hintz, and he had this cool bike. He could not keep up with Jason running. But Jason and I met them, Jason and Linda both, this summer, or right at the end of the summer, when we happened to be, we were doing professional development days. And I asked Becky Montour at West to just let me go in and sit in on some of the PD and time for each department, and she happened to take me to the art department because it happened to be close by. and it was the district-wide art meeting. And in that meeting, like, they were having some difficult discussions about feeling that they weren't necessarily supported, or that, you know, things are going on. Maybe that's but they were so engaged in doing what they could for their students. They and all the entire art department were, and their passion that they had, and what they were asking for, and they were so happy to have someone from around this table just sit there and listen to them. And I think that's an important thing to remember as we look at all the staff and remember they're human beings and that they appreciate when we all sit and listen to. So I wish all these teachers and staff members well, and appreciate all the different ways that they've impacted our students and families.
Very good. Thank you.
Awesome.
Anyone else? Okay. Okay, we are moving on to the superintendent's report.
All right, so tonight's good news superintendent's report. We'll start with an award. So we're thrilled to celebrate Sydney Moronic, one of our incredible 4K teachers who recently was named the WIXX Marian University Teacher of the Month. Nominated for her deep dedication to our youngest learners, Sydney was surprised with this award during a staff development session. We are incredibly proud of Sydney and thank her for her passion and hard work that she brings to our Oshkosh early learning community every single day. Congratulations, Sydney, well deserved. Carl Traeger 7th graders recently used tiny robots to map out complex literacy plot diagrams. After analyzing a story's structures, students designed unique pathways that required the robots to navigate the inciting incident through the resolution. By incorporating special color codes, students programmed the robots to change speed and direction, creatively mimicking the twists and turns found in the story. This innovative project successfully blended the analytical reading skills with introductory coding, making for a truly dynamic and memorable learning experience. Rosa, a senior at Oshkosh West, recently took home first place gold medals at both the Fox Valley Technical College 2025 High School Pastry Skills Throwdown and the American Culinary Federation Advanced Chapter Competition. Her award-winning entries included coffee cake cookies and triple layer chocolate espresso cake, which sounds fantastic, earned her the second highest overall score among 50 elite student competitors. Rosa also was recognized for her mastery of professional industry skills, and as a result of her hard work, she has secured multiple scholarships to Fox Valley Tech's culinary program, where she plans to continue her studies next year. So congratulations to her. The creative spirit of our district was on full display last month at our K-12 art exhibition. Featuring selected works from every school and grade level, the showcase highlighted the diverse range of artistic mediums and the exceptional talent of our student artists and the support they received from our art educators. This event offered a platform for student self-expression and demonstrated the high standard of arts education maintained in our classrooms district-wide. On Monday, South Park 8th graders visited the Junior Achievement Financial Park in Appleton. Each student was assigned a unique persona, including a specific career, salary, and credit score, and tasked with managing a comprehensive monthly budget that accounted for housing, debt, and taxes. This hands-on experience bridged the gap between classroom math and personal finance, allowing students to virtually implement their budgets and see the impact on their financial decisions in real time. On January 2nd, Oshkosh West proudly inducted 8 new members of the Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2025, celebrating a distinguished group of former student athletes and legendary coaches. The evening featured a private banquet where inductees received honorary plaques before they were recognized at center court before the boys' basketball game. This year's class represents decades of excellence. Their commemorative plaques now hang on the Wall of Fame, serving as a permanent source of inspiration for our current and future generations of Wildcats. Congratulations to all those recipients. Oshkosh North also celebrated the induction of 2 former teammates, Libby and Sydney, into the Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2026. Both inductees were 4-year standouts for the Spartans, notably leading the softball team to 3 undefeated conference titles in a perfect 31-0 state championship season in 2019. The pair was publicly recognized during the halftime game of the girls' varsity basketball game, surrounded by friends, family, and the Spartan community. So congratulations to Libby and Sydney. Our entire community is invited to join us this coming Monday, January 19th, for our Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Celebration at Val Phillips Middle School. The morning will feature a student keynote address as well as recognition of our MLK Jr. Essay Contest winners and honoring the Oshkosh Civility Project's Torchbearer Awards. This free, all-ages event provides a meaningful opportunity for our students and families to connect through reflection, music, and celebration of our local leaders who promote a more connected community. You can learn more at our website, and we invite anyone who is able to join us to please join us on Monday at Val Phillips. And finally, I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to be able to be out and about over the last month, staying engaged in our community and advocating for our kids. So, and that concludes the superintendent's report for tonight.
Thank you. We'll move into District Administrator Supplemental Report, Special Education Open Enrollment. Ms. Skifstead and Mr. Yerke. Good evening.
Good evening, board and community. Special Ed Director Skifstead and I will go through the special education open enrollment as well as the regular open enrollment recommendations this evening. The main purpose of this is to go through the required statutes for space availability and again our recommendations for both regular education and special education. I will take the much easier of the two pieces for discussion this evening. The regular education open enrollment space recommendation. Historically, the district has not closed the open enrollment window for regular education students, and that would be the recommendation continuing going forward. We have the ability, with the amount of buildings we have, the ability to place students where space allows. We do have grade levels that may be closed or filled, but we have the flexibility to move students where we have space within our district, and I think we all know our open enrollment numbers, especially in regular education, so we would keep and recommend that window stays open. Director Skifstead, if you want to jump into the special education world.
Yeah, thank you. For special education, we have closed previously and had some availability at our secondary level in previous years. This year, we're recommending closing based on the numbers and the projected caseloads of our students in all of our programs throughout the district. So for some background on that, we our projected numbers, and then we have a ceiling on the report, and our working capacity is 90% of that open enrollment ceiling. We are on track to either meet that ceiling, our projected caseloads, or exceed that ceiling for next year. So some background on that, the district is currently, while our enrollment, we've heard this through our budget discussions, while our enrollment has increased, our special education numbers have while our enrollment overall has decreased, our special education numbers have increased. So we are currently up to 1,673 students in the district with IEPs, which, just for some background, that's about 240 more than we had 2 years ago, okay? 3 years ago. So each year over the last 5 years, we have increased by about 42 students on average. That means we're up to 18.7% special education students in this district. Typically, a district our size, DPI will say, runs somewhere between 11% to 14% special education. We have not hired any additional special education teachers for this school year, and we minimally hired over the last 2 years additional special education teachers. So any availability that we might have with students moving out, we anticipate summer comes and students transfer into our district with IEPs. So for just some reference for that, over the last 2 years, our average is about 70 students per summer that transfer in with IEPs.
70?
70. Mm-hmm. And the last summer that I was here previously, so 3 years ago, it would have been summer of 2022, we had 15 students transfer in over summer. So that number has also increased, the number of students that we see transfer in each each summer.
What was the percentage again of kids that we serve with special education needs?
18.7%.
18.7. So almost 1 out of 5 kids in the whole school district have a special
Correct.
education.
We're almost, we're approaching that 20% mark.
Are they, I'm sorry, are they coming to us locally or from out of area?
Both. So we have had an increase, like I said, in students who transfer in who have already been identified and have IEPs. That's an individual education plan. We also have students that are here with us, and then we have students that are transfer students who they are recommended for referral for special education evaluation.
What might account for the increase of students within the district as well as those transferring in? I'm just curious.
So we used to think we had a bubble, right, from COVID times. I don't think that we can say that anymore. I
Okay.
think there's a number of factors that are impacting our students that are external factors. And I also think that our students, we truly have some students who we take them through the RTI process within our schools, and we're not seeing the growth that they have, that we would like them to make in order to not evaluate them for
Sure.
special education services. Under Child Find, we are obligated to evaluate any child that we suspect to have a disability under that law. However, just in my conversations with the Department of Public Instruction, one of the things that they will note is that we're still using norms and criteria from pre-COVID. And our students are different post-COVID. Our families are different. Our society in general is different post-COVID. So that might be one of the contributing factors that we see a rise in it.
When you say we, do you mean the state, or do we mean us as a school district or someone?
It could be us as a school district. We have seen a rise in larger districts in their numbers of special education. We're not the only ones. When I look at us in CESA 6, though, because we do have smaller, we are one of the larger districts in CESA 6. So in our group within CESA 6, we have a very vast range where we have some districts are as low as 8%, which I question if that's accurate number, accurate reporting. And then we have some districts that are closer to that 20% than we are.
I don't really want to go into this, because I really appreciate you talking about this,
Yeah.
because it's kind of been on the periphery of question of this, and
Sure, yeah.
But, and part of my question is partially from the previous special ed director I think had said comments to the board of like, our goal was that there was some implication that possibly we were over-identifying.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put those words into your mouth or that
Yeah.
belief into you either.
Sure.
I'm curious if the two of you, do we think that we will continue to see a growth in special ed services needed? Because, that does very much, we need to provide those services, and there's a cost related to that.
Absolutely.
Or do we think that there are things in our control that could help us decrease the number of
Sure.
special ed students?
Great question. So within our schools, the students so when you are identified as needing special education services, this should not be a life sentence. We should be able to, with some students, they will always need those services, and that's fine. But there are some students that we should be able to close that gap for them with proper interventions. And remember, special education is in addition to, not a replacement for the universal curriculum, okay? So we are always, as a special education team, when students are up for reevaluation, determining do they truly need special education services or specially designed instruction anymore. On the flip side of that, with the referrals and going through the RTI process, Matt and myself, Director of Pupil Services, are always having conversation with our school psychologists, with our care teams, to ensure that we are providing all of the proper interventions prior to, and so we're not over-identifying. That is a concern, though, always a looming concern for me. Are we over-identifying students as needing special education services? Which is what prompted my conversations with the Department of Public Instruction to say, is this a concern in other districts in our state? And that's when the discussion on our norms and our criteria for those norms haven't been updated in almost 10 years.
So is the practical impact of this projection that we just won't be able to accept new students with IEPs through open enrollment next year?
Yes, unless something drastic changes, I would assume the same thing. Because what we do when we look at staffing in special education is we're looking at caseloads for next year. So we have a plan leaving this school year for staffing. And we're always looking at how we can use our staff the most effective and efficiently as possible. However, the variable to that is who's going to move in over summer. We don't know who's going to move out and who's going to move in. So then we have to reevaluate once the school year starts in that month of September to make sure that we're staffed properly. So, for example, we don't, in an ideal world, we wouldn't have budget issues, right? And if we needed additional staffing at, say, a middle school that we weren't expecting higher than projected numbers, we would be able to hire for that position rather than take a teacher who's established as a special education teacher in another building and transfer them after the school year starts. But that is what we've had to do many years ago and what we did this year because of the budget impact. We wanted to make sure that we were staffing appropriately and we were going to where the kids are and where the needs are.
Thank you.
A more broad-based question, and I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, but if we're essentially full and we can't accept any more kids with special education needs, do our neighboring districts have space for these kids, or like what are we looking at here? Because I don't, because it seems like that could be a real thing. Not everyone can provide the proper special education services.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like that kids need.
Well, the resident district has a requirement to serve special education students. What we're talking about is students that would live outside of the district.
Okay.
And that would come in. So wherever
Correct.
students would live would be where their required services, students would be
Okay.
required to be served in that space.
I get
So
it.
it wouldn't be that students would be going without services.
Okay.
It would just be
Correct.
students living in other communities coming to us.
Okay.
And the
That-
common
that's what we're-
practice for districts is to not have open enrollment for special education services. It's not a fiscally great practice for districts to have. So most districts don't have it open.
Okay. That's good to know too.
However, if an Oshkosh resident student is attending a private school and wants to come to the public schools, we would make space for that person,
Absolutely.
correct? Yes,
That's correct.
thank you.
Absolutely.
And if a student who was previously here that's open enrolled, and correct me if I'm wrong, would have the ability to stay.
Correct.
We wouldn't ask
Okay.
them to leave. They would have the ability to stay. We've been serving them, we'll continue to serve them.
Correct.
And I understand homeless students have certain rights under the McKinney-Vento Act, and so
Correct.
we would also continue to serve them,
Correct.
even if they were considered homeless. Thank you.
I have one question. What group out of these 1,600 kids with IEPs are expected to take the state standardized test?
All of them, unless they are on alternative standards, and you should have 1% or fewer of your total special education population expecting to take the alternative standards test, which is the dynamic learning maps, the DLM. Parents can also opt them out if they don't want them to take the state standardized test.
Interesting.
How often does that happen?
It's been happening more frequently, where just recently, last week, I was sitting in 2 IEP meetings and parents asked for it. And it was maybe 2 that we would know of all year previously. So parents are asking for that more often.
Thank you.
Anything else?
So I think I heard you saying that part of the reason why we think we're getting up to the 18-20% is we're not getting as many kids off, that we would hope that the interventions would get them to the point where they wouldn't need the services. And so I'm curious about, I appreciate we're probably unlikely to get data from other districts in terms of how long they're having them on, but to some extent, I kind of feel like that's something I would be interested in tracking not to compare ourselves to other districts, but just over time, are we getting better at doing that per se? So and maybe we're seeing it, and we see so much data that maybe I'm forgetting it. But
And I think that's extremely variable, because it depends on the needs of the student, and there is, there are many other factors at play for that educational disability label. So for example, parents, sometimes that parents are hesitant to not have their student qualify any longer for special education services because they're afraid of going back to, but we have this, and this is what's helped my student be successful, and they're afraid of going back to what it was. We have variables of things that happen in the student's life. You know, if there's trauma involved, that can impact their progress. So I think we certainly could look at that data for you on how many students have been reevaluated and continue to qualify versus don't qualify. But just keep in mind it's multifaceted on that front of a student who wouldn't qualify any longer for special education services.
I think I just want to clarify based off of your question, because I think because there's two different, the on-ramp and the off-ramp are kind of two different things. And I think what I heard you say was that some kids that you had hoped would respond to the response to intervention RTI process before they are identified for special ed, we seem to be having higher numbers of those not get the off-ramp before they get the special ed label. So therefore, then they get into the special ed system per se. So I think there's kind of 2 points of, it sounded to me that you're saying that more kids are being identified and can't be served, I don't know if it's the right way to say, with a lesser amount of intervention or services than special education than in the past. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yes.
Okay.
Kelly, could you also speak to maintenance of effort and requirements that we have
Absolutely.
to not drastically reduce?
Absolutely. So maintenance of effort with the Department of Public Instruction, we have to maintain the spending per pupil that we have in the past. So for example, if we drastically reduce the amount of money that we've spent per pupil as far as special education services, that's going to throw a red flag to the state. So the Department of Public Instruction is going to look into and investigate why we're spending less per pupil. So once you hit a threshold of spending with special education, you have to maintain that threshold or have very good reason why you're not maintaining that. So if your overall special education population number doesn't drop, but you have dropped your spending on special education services for your students, the department's going to want to know why. With that, special education, again, looking at this report and closing it, I understand our goal is to have students open enroll to us, but special education doesn't pay for itself. Every district has funds from their general fund transfer into the special education funding funds, because what we get reimbursed from federal government, state government, our flow-through dollars from IDEA does not cover special education expenses.
Which is part of the reason why we're making cuts tonight, in reality.
And that's, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So we'll be bringing this back to be voted on at the next meeting. So no vote required tonight, just for the discussion and see if there's any questions.
Perfect. Thank you. Very informative.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving into agenda-related public forum, we have 5 speakers this evening. So, tonight, clearly state your name, city you reside in, topic you wish to address, the matters of concern. Your time is allotted to 3 minutes. And please remember the use of specific names of district personnel may lead to legal liability. In such instances, please pursue the district's formal complaint process by contacting the superintendent's office to direct you to the appropriate administrator. First up, we have Mallory Schneider-Birschbach.
Good evening. My name is Mallory Schneider-Birschbach, and I reside in the city of Oshkosh. First, as I always like to state at these meetings, I do not belong to any partisan group or political party. Second, I want to be clear that I'm not giving full grace to district administration or this board. In reality, our issues are something we all must take responsibility for in this community. Third, I ask the community to be careful of where you get your information. Don't take things at face value. Read up on how public education is funded in Wisconsin. And last, I am asking the community to not tear each other apart over this deficit. We must come together to address the issues at hand and also recognize that it's more complex than just enrollment is down, so funding is down. Yes, I realize our enrollment in OASD has declined, but money for our public education has not kept up with inflation and student needs. Remember, public schools must serve all students. Our school district has more diverse needs that require money for additional support and resources. Local taxpayers end up having to make up the difference when our state legislators fail to prioritize public education. We cannot continue on this path of asking our educators and support staff to do more with less. We've been doing this for well over a decade, and here we are. I have seen members of the state legislature actively work to slowly hemorrhage our public schools, and then some of us are surprised when our public schools cannot keep up with demands. And I'm not just talking financially, but I'm also talking about student outcomes. I continue to ask community members to contact your state legislators to demand that public education funding be prioritized so we can once again be a district that attracts families. And also unrelated, I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Riff's retirement. I had him for 7th and 8th grade art at Tipler, and although I'm not the most talented artist, his class was always enjoyable. Thank you for your years of dedication. And thank you.
Thank you, Mallory. Emily Heidemann.
Okay, Emily Heidemann, Oshkosh, City of Oshkosh, members of the board. Before you vote today, I ask you to be clear about what this decision does. Reducing licensed library media specialists does not remove the need for literacy instruction, digital citizenship, or media literacy. It removes the trained educators who provide it. These skills are critical for student safety and learning. Without consistent instruction, students are more likely to share content without understanding consequences or fail to recognize unsafe online behavior. That increases risk for students and families. Proactive instruction is one of the most effective prevention tools that schools have. This work does not disappear. It will become inconsistent. Some students will receive instruction, others will not. That creates unequal access to schools and works against our district's goals for equity and student readiness. I also want to highlight an operational impact. Licensed library media specialists manage student Chromebooks. We troubleshoot issues, coordinate repairs, issue loaner devices, we track inventory, and we communicate with families. If these positions are eliminated, that work does not go away. It becomes fragmented, leading to more lost instructional time when students are without working devices. I want to address also want to address the language in this proposal. The phrase, quote, reduced from 3.7 to 1.8 FTE, unquote, does not make clear that this proposal eliminates 5 licensed media specialists, 5 sets of student relationships, instruction, and guidance. Media assistants play an important role, but they are not licensed to provide instruction or assess learning. Staffing a space is not the same as maintaining an instructional library program aligned to reading growth, digital literacy, and equity. Removing licensed instructional staff who directly support literacy, technology access, and student engagement does not put students first. I respectfully ask you to reconsider this cut and protect the roles that serve students every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Todd Fighter?
Hello.
Hello.
I am Tav Fighter. I reside in Oshkosh. I teach in Oshkosh. I love Oshkosh. Dear board members, thank you for your commitment to our district. I have emailed you what I'm going to read, or most of it, but I've made some revisions. I'm here to speak in regards to the budget reduction recommendations. I thank you for listening to concerns shared at the last board meeting. The revisions before you now come about due to community members, students, staff, union members taking time to share their professional opinions, their concerns, and their suggestions. I believe removing the proposal of secondary specials teaching 6 out of 7 will have positive impacts for our students and also secure the equity among our teaching staff. I'm also pleased with the recommendation to retain the community engagement and equity administrator position, but move it to a coordinator position. It's clear from the last board meeting and listening session that this position has made an impact in the lives of many, and that's a win. The decision to house this position in the schools and not at our central office, I think, can further impact this as well. So, nice work. I am concerned about line item 22 and the reduction of a library media specialist from 3.7 to 1.8. As it currently stands, the library media specialists and media assistants already have a lot of responsibilities. These expectations were increased significantly with the reduction of tech coaches for the 24-25 school year. I asked you in the open session if you talked to some of them, and some of you said you have, but they play a significant role in the daily operation of our school. The demand for technology, as you know, is certainly not less. Digital needs and expectations are always increasing. Although our textbook budget, is less due to digital resources available, training and assistance are still needed for staff and students to utilize these resources. The demands often fall on the library media specialist. As a classroom teacher, my responsibilities shifted last year with the loss of a tech coach in our building. I had often worked alongside the tech coach to learn new things, tweak things I learned from them in the past, and not to mention they also came in and worked directly with my students. I now try to find time to go to the library media specialists and assistants to help with unplanned technology issues that always seem to arise, and our tech coaches are not able to be there because they're spread very thin. I believe that reducing the library media specialists will have a negative impact on our buildings, our staff, and ultimately our students. I urge you to reach out and talk with those currently in the media positions and ask them the demands that are so that a thoughtful and responsible decision can be made and how this work will be redistributed. They support our students, our programs, and overall school functioning, and are a crucial part of our student success. And in a time when technology is so much demanding more, please don't continue to remove things that help move students forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
Jeffrey Watts.
Hello.
Hello.
Is this on? Hello. Okay, whatever. I'm loud. You'll hear me. Thank you for being here, for what y'all do. As we go, I wanted to start by acknowledging the reality in front of us that we are facing a real budget shortfall and that doing nothing is just not an option at this point. Families in the district don't get to ignore financial gaps, and neither should we as elected officials in front of us. There are parts of this proposal that I support and think are responsible, such as reducing central office administration. That makes sense. Eliminating vacant positions, that also makes sense. Reviewing technology and textbook spending and operational efficiencies makes sense. Those are steps that show respect for taxpayers and long-term sustainability. I also want to acknowledge that I understand how some of these savings are being achieved at the secondary level, that I understand that many teachers will now be expected to teach an additional instructional block, moving from 5 out of 7 to 6 out of 7 periods. I recognize that this is a common lever that districts use when budgets tighten, and I don't want to pretend that this reality doesn't exist. Where I begin to have concerns, however, is in how these changes seem to stack together. The proposal shifts responsibility downward while reducing the number of adults supporting students directly. Literacy interventionists are reduced to media specialists are reduced, electives and enrichments are narrowed. At the same time, teachers are asked to carry a heavier instructional leads with less prep time. These decisions don't eliminate student needs, they delay them. Early intervention, engagement, and enrichment are preventative supports. When they are reduced, at the same time, workloads increase. The pressure shows up later as burnout, disengagement, and higher downstream costs start to show up. I also want to address the proposed reduction in the diversity, equity, and community engagement position. I understand that the intent here is to move this work closer to students and families, bring it to the classrooms, and I agree that engagement should be outcome-based and accountable. However, I'm not fully convinced that reducing the district-level coordination in this area is the right move without clear safeguards being put in place. My concern isn't about titles or ideology, it's about consistency and oversight. When coordination is reduced, implementation becomes uneven, and families who already struggle to navigate the systems are often the first to feel it. My position is not that we should avoid hard decisions, it's that we should make them in the right order and with clear expectations, measurable outcomes, and transparency. Fiscal responsibility and student success are not opposing goals. The strongest budgets protect both. I believe this proposal would be stronger with clearer guardrails around early literacy, student engagement, and teacher sustainability, so that solving today's financial problem does not create tomorrow's educational ones.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Carmen Scott.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Hi. My name is Scott. I live in Oshkosh. And shock and awe, I have nothing negative to say. I want to thank Michael Ford and Molly for being so proactive, online, being transparent, engaging, risking being, all the yelling that happens. I got involved in the school board and the city council because I felt there was a lack of transparency. So while this budget issue is difficult for everyone, and it's not going to go away, it's going to be here next year as well. I just really thank you for last month when there was so much engagement, when the guidelines were relaxed and everybody could speak on and on and on. I want to thank the teachers, the students, the community that really came. And I think what I saw from when I'm looking, not being on a board and not being as educated in this as others are, I saw real listening that took place. And when I looked and saw what was preserved, it is directly because our community stepped forward. So I wanted to thank our community in a public way. I want to thank those who serve, whether or not you were as transparent and open as Michael and Molly. I know Barb also has done some posting, and I really appreciate that. I also appreciate not everybody likes to engage in that way, so hope you are also reading emails and you're responding. But I did want to read something, kind of a throwback to last session when there were so many individuals speaking about the arts. And the arts is not just something, it's not the only thing, but this just struck me as I was thinking what I wanted to say to you. So why music? Music was my big deal in high school. And I'm still with the chamber singers, and it's still a big deal for me. Music is a science. Music is mathematical. Music is a foreign language. Music is history. Music is physical education. Music develops insight and demands research. Music is all these things, but most of all, music is art. That is why we teach music. Not because we expect you to major in music, not because we expect you to play or sing all your life, but so you will be human, so you will recognize beauty, so you will be closer to an infinite beyond this world. So you will have something to cling to. So you will have more love, more compassion, more gentleness, more good, in short, more life. We are not raising children to graduate with test scores that go beyond any other district. We are raising them to be human beings, to be able to be empathetic and help our community year after year after year. This budget vote is important, but raising good human beings starts in the family, in the community, in the schools. So I want to thank you for what you're doing. I wouldn't want to vote on this difficult budget, but I want to thank you for being part of this process this evening.
Thank you, Carmen.
My neighbor.
Okay, we are done with agenda-related. Now we move to non-agenda-related, and we have two speakers this evening. Jeffrey Watts.
Yeah, taking a break. Non-agenda. Okay. Remember last time I read agenda during non-agenda? Hi, Molly. Hi, everybody. I love what you do, by the way. It's great seeing you at other meetings. I compliment all of you. Mr. Ford, I watched all of your recent debates, and you're so well-spoken, and you dress the same. You're like Doug Funny, with the same outfit for every day. All right, here we go. So Dr. Martin Luther King reminded us that the time is always right to do what is right, that not what is easy, not what is convenient, but what is right. He also spoke of a table of brotherhood, a place where people with different backgrounds and beliefs could come together, that not because they agree on everything, but because they understand what matters more. And I believe that our schools must be that table. A table where these seats are not claimed by parties or politics, but held in trust for children. A table where budget decisions are made transparently with honesty about their impact on classrooms, teachers, and students, not hidden behind language families can't decipher. A table where we understand that education is more than test scores and balance sheets, where electives like music, art, drama, and journalism are not treated as expendable extras, but recognized as a place where students find confidence, belonging, and purpose. Dr. King warned us that our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. In education, silence looks like avoiding hard conversations or pretending trade-offs don't exist. A true table of brotherhood is one where equity is not a slogan, but a responsibility to ensure every family can navigate the system in front of them, that every student has access to opportunities, and that no child is quietly left behind because coordination failed or voices were unheard. It is a table where teachers are respected not just in words, but in workload, support, and trust, because the strength of our schools rests on the people who show up for our kids every single day. These school board positions in front of us, the ones that you fill, are nonpartisan for a reason. And they exist so that we can set aside labels and choose stewardship over division. When we commit to transparency, we center the children in every decision. And when we are willing to sit together at the table and speak honestly, we honor the spirit of that table Dr. King spoke about so long ago. That is the table that I believe in, and that is the table I will sit at. And that is the kind of leadership I'm offering, not to win arguments, but to serve children and to protect the future that we all share. I can't wait to see you all at the table.
Thank you. And Ashley Hansen.
I'm Ashley Hansen, and I'm an Oshkosh resident and a parent with 3 kids in the district. My children are in elementary, middle, and high school. I'm here tonight not just for my family, but for many families who are quietly having the same conversations at home. The district has been clear that declining enrollment is a major driver of our financial issues. Yet enrollment often isn't part of the conversation when we talk about policy or program decisions. Each student who leaves takes state aid with them, and that loss adds up over time. If you don't put more focus on the why of enrollment and retention trends, the budget problems won't ever go away. That means we have to ask harder questions. What makes families stay? What makes students want to come to school? And what makes Oshkosh stand out from neighboring districts? Exit surveys matter, but it's just as important to listen closely to the families who are still here before they aren't. My biggest concern, and the reason I'm speaking tonight, is the behavior policy framework. On paper, it appears neutral. In reality, many families experience it as inconsistent and reactive, especially for students who are vulnerable, struggle in traditional settings, or are responding to bullying or unsafe situations. Too often, students who try to defend themselves or advocate for their own safety and need for classroom supports are looked at as defiant and disciplined rather than supported early. This isn't just my experience. I hear this repeatedly from other parents, and it's one of the most common reasons families consider leaving. When students don't feel protected and parents don't trust the system to respond fairly and predictably, retention becomes very difficult, even when families want to stay. At this point, many of us feel like we're being forced to send our kids every day hoping for the best, or pulling them out even if it means homeschooling them ourselves. When victims are disciplined for defending themselves, accountability breaks down, responsibility gets spread so thin that no one clearly owns the outcome. In that gap, silence speaks loudly, and families quietly disengage or leave the district and don't look back. At the same time, the district has strong programs and community partnerships that could help engage struggling students, but many families aren't consistently aware of those opportunities or the funding limits the participation. When parents don't know what supports exist, those programs can't do their job, and yet they're often the first considered for cuts. I'm asking the board to consider retention as part of every major decision, not as an afterthought, to review behavior policies and acknowledge our kids' behavior as communication, consider a different approach on student encouragement, to communicate programs clearly and consistently, and to view student engagement as a long-term fiscal strategy. More specifically, I'm asking the board to consider 3 process level steps. First, require brief retention and student impact statement for every budget reduction in the future. Maybe it might be unrealistic, but it would be nice to have. Second, set a clear expectation that major programs and partnerships are communicated early, consistently available to families, and reconsider the reducing of funding for the programs. Third, consider district-funded token economy-style kindness system for student behavior encouragement. Lastly, commit to reviewing all behavior policies through the lens of prevention, consistency, accountability, and student safety. The question isn't only how to balance this year's budget, it's how to stop repeating the same deficit conversation year after year by making decisions that help students feel safe and supported and families feel confident staying in the district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This concludes our public forum for this evening. We will now move into 2 individually considered resolutions that are on the agenda. The first one is the approval of the 26-27 budget reduction.
Yes, I wanted to start, and I'll invite Dr. Coleman and Mr. Yerke up to the table just to work through any questions that board members have. I do have a few slides that I want to work through just to make sure that from a community standpoint that we can track the revisions that were made from the original proposal that was proposed at the board meeting on December 10th.
Before we go any further, we need a motion and a second to discuss it.
So moved.
Second, Barb.
Thank you.
All right.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So we'll take a look at some slides. Again, just want to outline some of the changes to the proposals, and then I'm happy to open it up for questions, discussion. So as we had previously talked about, problem to be solved. We were originally forecasting, based on our assumptions, a $6 million deficit. So we're currently looking at a $5.5 million deficit. Again, the reason for that change is removing, based on feedback that we'd received at the last meeting, being able to remove the staff market adjustments that we had built in for administrators. So $5.5 million becomes our target for our revised process as we're moving forward. So just to highlight, again, some of the reductions that were made and what our target and proposal is at this point. A few differences from before. I'd outlined the $5.5 million versus the $6 million previously. This proposal that is up for consideration tonight is about $4.7 million, plus the secondary scheduling reductions. And so we don't have those quantified at this point because that process will start later this month and will take essentially 3 months to be able to complete. So we would have a budget number to you probably the second meeting in April as we complete our secondary staffing numbers. We do have a high confidence level that we're able to get to $5.5 million through that process. But because we don't know what students are going to select and working through that process, that'll be a little bit different. So that's different from the proposal that we had looked at previously on December 10th. Secondary staffing, just to be clear, so we're no longer recommending that elective teachers shift to teaching more sections, the 6 out of 7 periods, which we were previously recommending. So that's no longer part of the recommendations. And in that space, to be able to still make some reductions in our staffing, looking at being more consistent with our 27-to-1 ratio that we practice when we are staffing at the secondary level. So that's our guidelines as we're working through that, and you can see district policy that kind of describes that. So that would be more consistency. That's not a hard and fast number necessarily, but more consistent to that level. This year, when you look at our numbers, we have many of our classes, especially for our freshmen and sophomores in English and math, are more around that 20 to 22 section, or 20 to 22 student numbers in that in their sections, and so it would be increasing those, but to a 27-to-1 ratio, which would be comparable to our peers. The Oshkosh West mental strength teacher was originally part of the recommendations to be eliminated, and so we're taking that off the table for elimination. Driver's education, so a lot of feedback on that. We're going to take a look at continuing to study that process in our Facilities and Finance Committee to explore some cost-neutral options and potentially some community support for that. Again, that was a $125,000 budget hit that we take on that, and so we want to make sure that we're not ignoring that cost, but we heard loud and clear of the importance of that service to our students and families. So looking at our community engagement and equity position, so we're looking at moving that from a director position down to a coordinator position that we would have housed at one of our schools, and that position again would be student facing, working directly with students and families. And then our technology position, we originally looked at our security and communications specialist position, and so what we did is in taking a look at what that department takes a look at, or what that department needs as far as the reduction is concerned based on feedback, so we decided to move to the elimination of the director of technology position and then bring back the security specialist position to be able to make sure that those needs are served as we're moving forward. And there's just some final changes. Peer coaches, we also heard, again, feedback related to the value of peer coaches. So reducing that number down to a 1.0 FTE, where we're currently at 1.9. So reducing that, continue to have support for first-year teachers. And then our elementary leadership, so reducing the elementary position due to the consolidation of Shapiro and Roosevelt. So that's another part of a change from the previous proposal to this proposal as we move forward. So again, just wanted to be able to outline that for the board. So we have the broader document that was part of the board packet also, but wanted to be able to update that and for community members to be able to track from our previous meeting to this meeting. So that's what I have just related to our presentation tonight. And again, so Sam and Brian are here, and we can go through any questions, comments that anybody has related to the proposal.
I've got stuff to say, but they're not questions.
I'd start with questions that they can help clarify. Questions?
Well, I guess I have were you about to ask?
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask about process. So, I mean, I was looking through all this. So it was back in October when we got the final numbers where admin really articulated their strategy for reductions to the board, and that included the feedback process back in November, where all district staff could participate. The strategic prioritization of reductions based on our key performance indicators and strategic priorities in math, reading, and social emotional learning. Sorry, I'm reading because this is what was given to us. And then targeted reduction amounts where specific cuts were driven by school leadership. The philosophy being that those overseeing the work in the schools understand better than the board or a single admin and how reductions will impact performance. So it was articulated to us several times that the strategy was to have reductions driven by those who will be held accountable for performance after the reductions are made. I just want to make sure that I'm describing that process accurately, and if you have anything to add to how this process was done, I think it's important the community understands this wasn't just us looking at a spreadsheet.
I would say that that is an accurate summary of the process. Certainly there are nuances to that process based on how we obtain feedback from staff throughout the district. And so certainly through email and individual outreach that staff members provided the executive team, in addition to the feedback form that was shared to staff to make recommendations or suggestions. So I would say that summary on its face is consistent with what our process was, but I don't want that to be perceived as an oversimplification of the amount of hours and time and outreach between administration and staff that went into making these final recommendations.
Okay, but you could confirm that principals and school leaders were heavily involved in making those first recommendations?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
So, can I ask what is going to happen? I'm struggling with the 27-to-1 ratio, and I think Dr. Davis was saying this might take several months. What is going to happen? What is the process for what information do we need? When do we feel what it ends up being? Because right now we know it's a formula.
And I can share that we've ran the formula, like we've gone through the process at our high schools to look at current staffing, their current courses, what they're running at, what their class averages are, and then we ran a model with the expected numbers next year, what those class sizes would be if we ran that, if we increased them, so let's say from 18 to 25, or from an AP class that's been running at 14 and we ran it at 17. So we ran those numbers, and just through that base model running, we can look at how many FTEs we can save. So I can confidently say that we can get to that number we projected based on the models of incoming class, senior class leaving, incoming freshman class, looking at how classes have ran historically and running the data off of this year's numbers. So now, unless we get an influx of open enrollment kids and we get a freshman class that we're not expecting, the numbers we have running the models, we can achieve that goal that we have set.
I would just add, the concept of attrition is a part of that model. So it would be, as we have through anticipated typical attrition, either through retirements, resignations, or so forth, it would be not filling those positions. So when we think about how does this approach actually save costs, it would be through that approach of responsible attrition. Dr. Davis, I don't know if you were going to add more.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add. So we're currently right at the beginning of students choosing classes and being able to sort that out. So that takes a little bit of time for students to be able to run schedules, resolve conflicts in schedules, that type of thing. So when we get to the point in the year, within the next couple months, when we have that resolved, then Brian and Sam will be meeting with the principals at each level to be able to go through classes that we're going to run and classes that we're not going to run. So that'll be part of that process. So with that in mind, then we'll also obviously in this situation have a budget guidelines, if you will, of the savings that we'll need to minimally get through that process. Again, we're confident that we can reach that the mark that we have here, moving from that 4% $4.7 million to that $5.5 million mark. But we'll be closely monitoring that. Sam and Brian will be part of that process. Brian from the budget operations side and Sam from the course selection side. Again, along with working with the principals who know their buildings well and and have worked closely with counselors and closely with kids as we move forward. So that just takes some time to be able to work through. That's a typical process for us. We moved that timeline up a couple of years ago. We had previously been pretty delayed on that process, so we try to wrap that up by spring break if we can, and then we'll just need some time to be able to formulate the report and finalize that. So again, I would anticipate that second meeting in April to be able to have a budget number that would be kind of a final leg of what this proposal would be.
And just as an addition to that, it wasn't just Dr. Coleman and myself running these models, the principals ran these models. So the people who are scheduling in the buildings ran these models for us, tweaked them and adjusted their numbers to meet anywhere from a 25-to-1 ratio to a 27-to-1 ratio. And just as an example, the current math department in one of our buildings has a class average of 18.8 right now. Some of that's, you have an AP class that might run at 14 or a CAP class that runs, but the average right now is 18.4. If we were to move that to 25, that would allow us to reduce by over 2 FTEs, right, just by making some of those adjustments in how we staff. So the principals have ran the models in their buildings. I've looked over those models. Dr. Coleman will be looking at courses, sequencing, how to run things, but again, we have some confidence in that this is the correct pathway to schedule.
I know that one of our highlights of this district are our CAP courses, our arts courses. Do you anticipate offering those courses, continuing to offer those courses?
Absolutely, and part of our discussion and our analysis is looking at ways that we can offer those courses if in the instance that we have enrollment that is less than what we would anticipate. We look at, an example would be a combined CAP class with students from, for example, North and West, instead of offering that individually at one school and not the other. So we certainly intend to continue to make those offerings. It's looking at the frequency in which those courses are offered and the collaboration between both high schools if necessary.
Thank you.
One of the benefits of this whole process has been the uncovering of better processes, efficiencies, and finding models to schedule, collaborate, work together that'll help us be more efficient moving forward.
Mrs. Smeltnik.
I'm taking advantage of the fact that I don't have my 3 minutes tonight, right, that as a public forum. I know I have a very unique view on this that I know other board members don't agree with me on, but I think I need to listen to the perspective of many community members. So tonight I'm voting on behalf of the large portion of our community who believes in public education and believes that it's the public interest that all kids have the right to learn to read, write, and do math. For those who not only believe in transparency and accountability, but also in engagement. For the people, especially the staff members, who express that they know we are facing an incredibly difficult financial reality, who say they want to be, that we are in it together, and who assert that they want to be a respected partner in finding the solution that puts students first. I've expressed throughout this process that it's often the why and the how that are just as important as the what when it comes to change management. I also believe it is a fair expectation that any review or process is conducted related to budget reductions must be done systematically, and that all cuts should be strategic, intentional, and sustainable. It's fair to ask for evidence and full review and potential strategic realignment to ensure that we preserve core duties and responsibilities and strive to meet the needs of students first. Without a doubt, initial proposals, as much hard work as they put into it, from administration failed this litmus test. Staff morale and engagement took a hit, to be put that very mildly. The proposals seemed to put the burden unfairly on the shoulders of students and some staff, while others were almost felt, at least to many in the community, untouched. The revisions are better and still difficult. To put it into terms that every student and teacher is aware of, I think we've still got the CER analysis backwards, Admin made claims or proposed cuts in this situation and then found and shared the supportive evidence and relative reasoning that supports that claim. In my view, it should be the other way around, where the evidence and the reasoning leads you to the appropriate claim, in this case, the right and appropriate budget cuts. So I appreciate that we were able to keep some positions that are clearly valued by various students and staff, and I appreciate that the description of cuts now more accurately shows where they will be impacted in primary, secondary, central office, and district-wide. And I appreciate that there are now better explanations available on why some decisions were made and how that will impact services provided. And we as a district have to trust our board, our community, our teachers, and our families with information. We are still in the process of gathering that evidence and reasoning to support our claim. We have a responsibility to be transparent and to not only explain, but to engage. And I, for one, still need key information. I need to know why some programs and positions that people fought to save thrive at West High School and do not even exist at North. While I appreciate the two high school principals working collectively to ensure this parity between both high schools and staffing, and also that West will now likely continue to have a mental strength program, it's frustrating that because North doesn't foster an environment where mental strength class took hold, it was initially proposed to be cut at West, where because we couldn't keep someone in the position of post-secondary navigator at North, a position that Fox Valley Tech feels is so important that they're willing to pay half the salary, our answer was to eliminate that position and give the remaining post-secondary navigator the impossible goal of covering the entire district. Where our Director of Community Engagement and Equity made an immediate impact at West and some elementary schools, the position has struggled to serve North and some other schools with a more diverse student population. This is an equity issue, and we are accepting and encouraging a climate where neither students nor staff thrive. We are perpetuating disparities between schools and among student populations with these budget cuts. I want to be clear, despite these inequities, students at North are doing incredible things. The kids at North are incredible kids, just like the students at West. They deserve a system and a school that believes in them and prepares them for a bright future. I need to know that we, as a system, will stop failing our students no matter what school they attend or the color of their skin. I need to know that in a more formula-based staffing model, unique opportunities at North won't disappear at a higher rate than at West. Heck, I need to have some reassurance that we as a system and as individuals in that system believe in all of our students. I need more information before I'm convinced that we are indeed overstaffed in teaching staff. I need to know expenses will be cut, legacy practices will be ended, and again, that if things will look different for students, they will also look different for leadership and middle management. For a fact, I know that we are wasting money on conferences where staff are learning practices that don't align with our priorities and initiatives to increase student achievement. That must stop. I need to know our district is committed to our priority of equitable student growth and achievement. If our literacy coaches aren't on board with the science of reading, they should not be our coaches or our interventionists, let alone both. If we aren't ensuring cultural competency and addressing implicit biases, we need to invest more in that work, not less. And if we don't have enough kids to run advanced classes, we need to eliminate the opportunity gap instead of eliminating AP chemistry. When it comes down to it, I need to know that we're doing right by kids, even as we reduce our budget. I know our leadership team and principals spent a lot of time and effort and made difficult recommendations. I appreciate that Dr. Davis has now directly made the commitment to me to engage more strategically moving forward. I also appreciate that his staff are already complying that data, as Dr. Coleman and Mr. Yerke both talked about tonight. I can tell you that I now feel more confident than I did even 24 hours ago, that I will eventually get the information I need to feel confident and make the best bad choice next time around.
I believe they're reducing the library media specialist.
So I appreciate the work the administration has put into this process and thank them. And this burden isn't theirs alone. When we work together, we get better solutions. We have a trust problem in this district. We have a communication problem in this district. We have an engagement problem in this district. And that ultimately is why I'll be voting against the budget reduction proposal. I do not yet trust or believe that these reductions are centered on the concept of students first. I am now more comfortable with the what of the cuts, but I'm still lacking in the confidence of why the particular cuts are being made and how they will be sustainable and prioritize kids, not adult needs. When we can demonstrate and document a full systematic review of district expenses, including staffing, we will be able to prove that all cuts are strategic, intentional, and sustainable. We get to that by engaging stakeholders, especially staff and families. We communicate these details, rationale, and process early and often. That is how we build trust that we are making the best bad choice for our community. We have to do better. I call on the board to do better, to hold ourselves and our superintendent accountable. I call on Dr. Davis to prove that he is the leader of this district and that he is the leader that we need, and to lead us into a new era of transparency, engagement, and accountability. We must put students first, and I'm still not convinced that we are. So sorry.
Okay, anyone else?
Wants to go.
Yeah, I will certainly like to speak. I am certain that my actions and my votes over the past nearly 3 years have demonstrated that I'm not happy with the direction of this district. I've listened intently to speakers the last month pleading for us to change course with budget reductions. Since then, I've been approached numerous times out in the community, and I will say that there is a noticeable number of new people taking interest. What is different, though, and I will echo what Molly said, is that now I am hearing an overwhelming sentiment that people do not trust this district, and they want to see a change in leadership. And now, so to end that, I will make a motion here to amend the resolution to add the following sentence to the end of the resolution. The Board of Education also approves the reduction of Superintendent Brian Davis as a budget reduction measure.
I'll second it.
So I guess we can have discussion now?
We can discuss it.
I would just like to make a statement. I think, I was hoping we weren't going here, Kelly.
We went.
I think when you sit on this board, you have a responsibility as a board member. And Kelly, you have missed the last 6 Facility and Finance Committee meetings. You don't do your board evaluations. You have not done a school visit in 2 years. And Dr. Davis offers each of us a monthly meeting to sit with him for an hour, to understand what we're going, to be able to ask questions, to help understand the district and why decisions are being made. And you have not taken advantage or given back in your role as a board member.
Thank you for the input. I also have a duty to my constituents and a fiduciary responsibility to not only the district, but also our community and my constituents.
I think all of these decisions that we are left with here for these budget reductions are stuff that we have to do. The individual items we don't have to, but we have to come up with a very large dollar figure this year. And again, I go back to portion what Molly was saying. We need some sense of accountability. And I brought it up at our last board meeting, that I watched that meeting in November of 2023 where Dr. Herzog, you told us about how the test scores brought you to tears and that you wanted to try to convince this board to be more assertive, to hold our administrators accountable, because our test scores, nothing was happening. And you had mentioned that we had provided every single resource that administration was asking for, and that WASB the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, their legal counsel advised you that our primary responsibilities are twofold. First, accountability, and second, fiduciary responsibility. And since that time, I would challenge you, this board in its entirety, what decision have we made that has held anybody accountable? We have declining test scores. We have disparities that continue to increase. I have not seen anything that suggests that we are moving in a direction of an improvement. President Wyman, part of it is your responsibility as a board president to attack Ms. DeWitt. I'm amazed that we would do this.
Me too.
We need to provide a product, a educational environment that people are excited to come to, and we're not. The fact that people are leaving, that's what's putting us into this budget deficit. I don't need to hear about, gee, other people could have solved this for us. We have agency. We can do something to change this district. And if we don't make those changes, this is what we're facing every single year. And we need to hold somebody accountable, or I believe as Dr. Ford said a couple months ago, if we have the board isn't going to do it, then we need to expect the community to hold this board accountable. And so when we have been asked to consider accountability, it's more than just a word. Accountability involves action. Action for what it is that we are seeing. And if we just blindly pretend as if we're not seeing anything, of course, we don't see accountability. So I can completely get on board with this notion. I have had a large number of people contact me, and they have expressed a very similar sentiment to what Ms. DeWitt had said, that they want to see change at the executive level. And so when that many people tell me the same thing, I'm on board with it. Is it going to happen? Probably not. But I think there's a large amount of the community that have that same sentiment, and we need to start holding somebody accountable. That's it. I'm done.
Well, you've heard me say over and over again, I think, and I'm new here, I don't think you punish an individual for a collective failure. One of the things that, and this is more towards the budget discussion, which I think is, I want to view this through the context of that, because we did do Superintendent Davis's review last week, and we did vote to retain him. So I think we as a board have spoken on that regard, unless people have changed their mind. But it's good to know the superintendent deserves to understand who on this board supports him and who doesn't, because we don't want to put you in a position where you're not able to do your job successfully. But from a budgetary standpoint, I've been here a year. I've seen a strategy articulated here to address a situation that has been developing for over a decade. I've seen us use fund balance to close a structural deficit over the last 2 years. Could we have made decisions at those times as a board to change course? Yes. I have not seen us as a board develop quantitative KPIs. I've seen us relying on inputs. I've seen us change that this year, and I've come to realize I have to do a better job explaining this, because I don't think my colleagues know what the heck I'm talking about, and that's on me. But until we as a board can really say that we've aligned what we want, articulated that to the superintendent, and actually committed to a plan, I don't even know where you begin the accountability conversation. And accountability means something to everybody, right? To me, it's not a public flogging. I take no joy out of terminating people. I've had to terminate people in my private life. That's no fun. And I admit, the way I'm wired, I tend to air my dirty laundry in private. I don't think that it's good for the community when we try to publicly humiliate folks. To me, that's just not accountability. But that's okay. We all approach these things differently. But bottom line is, as a board, I don't think we have any agreement what we mean by accountability. So we're going to tell Brian that you have to be accountable to us, but we're not going to tell you what the heck that means. And by the way, if you don't do it, you're gone. That's not fair. Maybe we'll get there, right? Superintendent's one of those jobs that really stinks because you always end up getting fired. No offense, Brian, but you know the numbers. But I'm certainly not going to tonight say that you deserve to lose your job because you are taking, finally, we're taking action here to close a structural deficit that will completely destroy this district if we don't take action now, right? This will just compound the pain if we don't act on this. I mean, how many poor decisions do we have to pile up on this district before we start changing the way we operate as a governing body? And that's the question I have. And I understand. I got to convince my colleagues. I don't got to convince the public. I don't have to convince Superintendent Davis. But dang, I'm sure Zach's going to try. Because we got to stop making these poor decisions. They're just backfiring on us and putting us in a financially unsustainable position where we're constantly changing course and we're undermining our ability to do anything. Yeah, obviously the frontline teachers are the most important people in this district. But my goodness, we're an organization with a $150 million operating budget with how many employees? 500 plus, right?
59.
Right. If we're not approaching this from a systems approach and as a governing body, recognizing the seriousness of what we're doing, and thinking that we can just say, oh, this guy, we don't have to give him support, either do the job or don't, then what are we doing? Why are we even here? We shouldn't have a board. So I'm rambling a bit, but as you can probably guess, I'm going to vote no on this.
I believe structures have been put in place to change the narrative since I last addressed this. Emotionally, back in November of 2023, we've hired a new leader for our curriculum team in the form of Dr. Sam Coleman. He has put structures in place that, based on my educational background and training, should work in terms of improving our test scores. And I know we're more than about test scores. However, it's one measure that we have that the public typically uses in comparing one district to the next. But my interest is more in terms of what does improvement and growth and achievement mean for each individual student. I started a new venture earlier this year in that I am volunteering 1, 2, or 3 days a week in the same classroom in one of our middle schools. It's a school of about, or a classroom of about 24 students. Probably 7 of those are students with disabilities. There was recent testing going on last week. I think it was iReady testing. I'm not sure what it was. But one student who's been with us since kindergarten, I believe, is reading at a kindergarten or first grade level. Also in that classroom is a student who reads at about a 3rd or 4th grade level. And those were 2 students I've worked with during this year. My point is that not all students start the same. Not all students have the same support at home. And so we have to take each child where he or she is and move them forward. The teacher in that classroom, in my opinion, is doing a phenomenal job. She implements all kinds of strategies to help each child be successful. She praises students when they deserve it. Students respond well. There are no discipline problems in that classroom that I've observed since I started in that classroom in early October. So all the elements are there. She's using the right curriculum. We finally moved away from whole language to science of reading since Dr. Coleman came. And the pillars that he describes in terms of professional development, having the right objectives, having the right materials, having the professional development, and the 4th one is?
Strategic use of data.
Thank you. Strategic use of data are there. And I see them every time I go into that classroom. She tracks everything. And she makes modifications on the spot. As she sees one strategy isn't working, she'll shift gears, as I saw her do today, and present information and opportunity for student learning in different ways. So I believe we have the pieces in place to change that narrative, and I am as excited as anyone to see that happen, not just because of the scores, but because of what it means for each individual child, that family, and our community at large. And it changes the whole narrative when kids experience success. Success breeds success. So when those children, as the boy I was working with today said to me as we were going through this list of 20 problems that he was to address, I get it, I get it. And he had a smile on his face. So I believe the elements are there. And no, we can't wait forever for change. We've also implemented a new math curriculum that was in line with the testing. Some people call that teaching to the test. When you have taken your driver's license test, you were taught to the test. You were taught what you were going to learn on the test. Nobody seems to have a problem with that. And we've all been in classrooms, I believe, where teacher hands out the test and hand goes up and says, well, we didn't cover this. And the teacher says, oh yeah, well, just skip over that one or whatever. Or here's the answer. It's important to know what you're going to be assessed on, and you have an opportunity to learn that. And I believe the pieces are in place. The supervision of the principals is important by those in the director positions here to make sure that they're making sure that everything is being implemented as it's being directed. And they too are held accountable, the principals as well as the staff. So there are lots of pieces, but in my opinion, we finally have them in place. And the science of reading has been shown to have great results in many, many districts across the state. We've been extremely slow, in my opinion, to adapt to that, but we're finally there.
I'm going to vote no to the amendment. And there's a number of reasons. I think school districts end up following the lead of their school boards, right? And we certainly need to hold accountable. And the school boards need to hold administration accountable. But we also certainly have to celebrate the good that we have here. And when we can, we have to try to lift the district up and not destroy it at every turn. And that's our duty as board members. Sowing chaos leads towards people leaving. I know students that have left specifically because of chaos that has been stowed in this community. Probably, a lot of times for political reasons, which is why I dislike politics and school boards. So yes, we need to hold accountable, but yes, we also need to lift this district up and not harm it. So I'm a no on the amendment.
I hope it is clear by the content of what I actually said tonight that I am no way in collusion or necessarily in agreement with the amendment as proposed or the statements of that. I also very strongly believe that we need to be working on accountability. Mm-hmm. And I don't, I do think that there has been some clarity and accountability of what we expect. And I hope we continue to get there, and that's why I really hope that we get to the points, why I made statements publicly tonight of the fact that we need to focus on transparency, engagement, and accountability. That is one of the ways that we'll actually get our literacy outcomes to improve, and I want Dr. Davis to prove that. I want to be very clear on that. I don't necessarily agree that he has proven that yet. I do not want the chaos of this being a question, though. We need to move forward on a path. I will be voting no on the amendment, and I will be voting no on the cuts because of my extreme displeasure with how the process has gone and how it all emerged. But I am very clearly here to engage and to be part of the solution. I've been part of that since my kids came to this district. I see no value in ripping apart without being part of the solution. And that is not the role of a board member. Yes, we make difficult decisions, and we need to be part of the solution, not just pointing out the problem all the time.
I also will be voting no for the amendment. I apologize, Kelly. It was unprofessional to call you out, but it's very frustrating when we're not all on the same page trying to do good things for the district and make this district better. Because that's why I sit here. We spend a lot of hours as a board member, and I'm doing it in a positive mode to make this a better school system for my grandchildren and for everyone else that lives in this community. And to tear it down does nothing good for all of the businesses in this area. If you don't have a good public school system, you have no economic development. We need to have the best public school system we can have. And that's why I sit on this board, to make sure that we do have a system that is going to draw people into our community. You know, maybe our test scores aren't stellar, but when you look at the growth scores, and I know some people on this board don't agree with the growth scores, you listen to Dr. Herzog and her experiences, and so many others. You do your school visits, and you talk to the principals, and you talk to the teachers, and you meet a student along the way, and there are so many wonderful, positive experiences that's what I'm in for, not to bring it down. Accountability, fine, but we need to do better all the way around.
I guess I would question, I heard everybody say, and I didn't bring this forward thinking that I was going to succeed in it. But we talk about accountability here, but where was the accountability with the $1.2 million with South Park? Where's the accountability with the hundreds of students that we're losing every year, the declining test scores? The fact that even a proposal of administrative raises was brought forward while we're talking about cutting 70 positions, where was that accountability? Nowhere. There's no accountability anywhere here. None.
Call the roll, please.
Hess. Hess.
Aye.
Smeltney.
No.
Wright.
No.
Wyman.
No.
DeWitt.
Yes.
Ford.
No.
Herzog.
No.
Motion fails.
Okay, and we go back to our budget. I believe we have a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second. Smeltney.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, wait.
I think we're still talking about
More
it.
discussion.
Gotta roll. Sorry.
I have a question. We listened to the media specialist tonight, and there was a little bit of discrepancy of 3.7 to 1.8, and they were saying that wasn't the accurate numbers. What?
Yeah, I can speak to that.
Thank you.
So what you see in the rationale statement is FTE,
Okay.
but not every
Not
media,
bodies.
not every media specialist is a full FTE,
And, go ahead.
full-time equivalency, sorry.
I was just wondering what is the plan for all the tasks that they have? How will those be redesigned, redirected in an effective way that's going to benefit students?
Yeah, I can take that. So just like any position that's being reduced at any level, there's going to be a cascading impact. Like, none of these decisions are good, whether it's a position in central or buildings and grounds or the media specialist. There will be a reallocation of duties, and we will have to figure out what new business looks like. For the media specialists, working with our tech team, I did meet with the media specialists, and they do a phenomenal job in our district. There is no doubt about it, and the services they provide are valuable. We will have a reallocation of duties between tech integrators and our tech coordinators, and rethinking the way we teach some of those skills and how our Chromebooks operate within libraries and how our media assistants are used in our libraries. And will it be a clean and perfect process? No, because we will find unintended consequences along the way, and we will have to reshuffle duties. But that reallocation of the base roles and responsibilities will go to our tech integrators, our media coordinators, to some extent through our teachers with some of the teaching that takes place. And it will be a process to go through all that. We have the foundational pieces in place. And as we go, we will have lots of meetings with all of the people involved in our buildings, including our principals who run their buildings and know how things operate, to reallocate duties and shift and adjust the way we operate in our buildings in our district.
Other questions?
Sorry?
Dr. Herzog?
I don't have a question as much as a comment. All the board members were afforded the opportunity to meet with Dr. Davis and the two assistant superintendents in December, and then there was a second opportunity to meet, I believe it was after the December board meeting, with those same three administrators as well as a principal at each level. I know I expressed in both of those meetings, and they were not executive sessions, but I know I expressed in both of those meetings that I had concerns about cutting the media department. This stems from my background, in that I had worked in this district as a central office administrator, and the media department was under my leadership or management, whichever you want to call it at the time. I did not have a media specialist license, but I relied heavily on people like Marge Leffen and June Anderson and others who did have those licenses. And as a former classroom teacher, I relied heavily on a library media specialist to teach different skills to my students, including determining fact from opinion, identifying bias, identifying reliable sources, and those are still viable skills today. This media piece was one that just has stuck in my craw since last month, and I know that in meeting with those two groups of administrators, it was explained that the principals were all in agreement with this. But with my background, as I described, I still had some reservations. So I did reach out to someone who had been a media specialist in this district, went on to be a director of technology for 20 years, and also worked at the DPI as director of technology, where she oversaw media programs. Since she knew the district and had worked here, when I said what the proposal was as far as reducing at the middle and high school level as well as the elementary, her first reaction was, you can't have only one media specialist for all elementary schools. No classes will be taught. They will work on databases, technology, checking in and out books only, and there will be no teaching. By law, she noted that media assistants cannot teach. They can read books and they can have activities for children, but they can't actually teach. We would be losing out on 21st century literacy skills, including, as I said, identifying bias, determining the difference between fact from fiction, and digging into appropriate references that are valid. She noted that, let's see, there's a lot of research on the relationship between licensed media specialists and quality programs and reading scores or literacy scores. She wondered about the use of maker spaces. She said that usually it's the library media people who make use of those. We've built maker spaces into our two newest buildings, Menominee and Bell Phillips. In her district, where she serves on her school board, they use those maker spaces for such things as 3D programs for field trips, programming leading to high school robotics classes, and overseeing the efficient use of those spaces. I did reach out to the DPI, to the current person who's in charge of technology and media, and unfortunately he wasn't available, but said he'd get back to me tomorrow. As I noted in the listening session, I went back to the OASD Long-Range Library Media Plan for 2025-27 that was voted on by this board after a presentation on February 28th, 2025. There were 7 areas in that report, which included curriculum instruction and assessment challenges, personalized professional learning, robust infrastructure, budget and resources, community partnerships, data and privacy, and collaborative leadership. For each of those areas, there were, I think, 4 areas listed underneath, including successes or what's going well, and then there was also a section on challenges. As I looked at the challenges, they included such things as time for professional development with staff, teacher integration of curriculum, using the media staff as professional resources to increase the KPIs, highlighting the importance of embedded digital citizenship, providing resources for 4K students and staff, equitable library facilities and equipment, including bookshelves, furniture, and space, Space for makerspace, materials and activities, funding for consumables, flexible seating and shelving, equitable library spaces, I guess I mentioned that already, reallocation of library space for other departments, and lack of professional workspaces. So I wanted to find out if I could find anything on the internet, using reliable sources, that would speak to the notion of a strong library media program led by somebody who's licensed in that area and its impact on student learning. And I found several. I think I found 6 or 8. In dozens of large-scale studies involving over 8,700 schools and over 2.6 million students, research has consistently demonstrated that students score on average 10 to 20% higher on reading and achievement tests when their school has a strong library media program. This effect holds regardless of other school conditions such as student-teacher ratio, overall per pupil spending, student demographics, and community socioeconomics. Further, qualitative research shows that the relationship is causal. Effective library media programs directly contribute to higher student achievement. This goes on to say that student achievement is higher in schools where the library media center and its resources are used more, both by individuals and whole classes. The level of usage is partially a function of the accessibility of the facility and its resources, and this level of accessibility is also associated with higher student achievement. I found another study which came from Indiana University, stating that librarians forge a link between literature and technology, teach classes and collaborate on curriculum with educators, improve student achievement, and prepare students for the rigors of college research. In addition, schools that have a certified school librarian have higher test scores. Research shows that where libraries are staffed with professional librarians, student achievement improves. So my conclusion is that we should not be reducing our library media program. And I would propose that we take out the 3 items that deal with library media staffing, which would be numbers 17, 22, and 32 on the list, and postpone a vote on those until we have an opportunity for the library media specialists to present the plans that they have emailed to board members. They could sit down and work with administration on those. They were not opposed to reductions, but the library should be the hub of learning in the school. And we have an issue with our test scores. So it seems, and our student achievement that backs that up. So my feeling is that more work needs to be done on that. What?
Which items were they again?
17, 22, and 32.
Okay.
Can you name them?
Sure.
Yeah.
17 was the media coordinator reduction from 0.5 to 0.2. 22 is to reduce the media and high school media specialist positions from 3.7 to 1.8. And 32, elementary media specialist FTE from 3.6 to 1.0. I believe more discussion and conversation needs to be had. I believe in the concept of locus of control, which I've brought up at other times at this board meeting, which means that the people doing the work or people interested in the work should have input in what it goes on with that. And that may have taken place, but I don't know if the administration has seen the 2 plans that were submitted by the media specialists to the board. And I think we owe it to this community, if we are really serious about reading achievement, literacy achievement, to not reduce the media specialists at this point in time.
So what's the motion?
I would, let's see.
What are you proposing?
The motion to pull 17, 22, and 32 for further discussion.
Yeah, I would move to postpone the motion to exclude at this time 17, 22, and 32 to a future time to allow administration and the media staff to get together and come up with a more palatable plan that will serve our students and put students first.
What is a future time?
A month from now? They're not enrollment
I'm just trying
dependent.
to put a timeline on it so it doesn't...
All right, so let's say February. First meeting in February. That gives it a month.
That's 2
Can-
weeks.
Can we do the second meeting in February?
That would be
Just to be able to
great.
have some
Sure,
time.
let's go with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion was made by Herzog, second by
Wyman.
As point of, so if, I don't know if we want to have discussion on the amendment, my issue with that amendment is, to my points, every single one of these points should get that same level of consideration. I appreciate all of the advocacy that the media specialists have done, and we've gotten a whole heck of a lot of other advocacy too. It seems very unfair if we would open it up again for only one when it feels like there are a whole lot of other areas that would or could potentially benefit from more staff engagement. That was one of my comments.
What would be the overall cost here? I know the one's $180,000. I'm just trying to think of.
Yeah, what's the
About
total?
$340,000 would be the total.
340,000.
And so if we do bring it back, we'd have to see whatever their alternative plans are, and then be prepared to identify what we're gonna,
Yeah.
what we'd want to bring back to,
So
for additional cuts.
I understand what Dr. Herzog is saying, and I kind of support it. But I also understand what Molly is saying. So kind of my question is, I've heard this, we need to vote on this now, that it gets us something.
Well, kids
I
can't
don't-
schedule, right? They can't sign up for their classes.
Except to some extent, I think Mr. Yerke had said, and I fully support the notion, I would rather us base a model off of existing data rather than having this turn into a popularity contest where everybody knows, hey, gee, there's potential classes that are going to be eliminated, so let's go advocate for everybody to go take this person's class, kind of thing. So to some extent, I kind of go, I feel like the prior year's data is what is more informative. And so that's what I'm trying to understand, because in part, I would propose that we push the whole thing off to a month, but I'm trying to understand what is the hang-up in doing that? How does that hinder us?
From the pure numbers standpoint, sections are going to drive what courses run, but on the other side of that, it's the common courtesy to the staff who may be involved in these reductions with the timeline. Giving them an opportunity to, whether it's look at other employment, other opportunities here, but having respect for that timeline.
I don't see this as a popularity thing. I see this as someone, namely me, who wanted more information than what I was provided with, and I went out and got it.
I didn't say your issue was a popular. I'm
okay.
saying
I didn't
what it
know.
turns into when students go out and now try to select classes, part of it will be that.
Now I get it. Now I understand. Thank you.
But I think we have to be very aware that how it comes back, we may be coming back in a month if this were to pass and still cutting all of it, the 340,000.
That's true.
Well, I can tell you, if I was anybody else on this list, then I'd probably try to come back and get us to change our mind about everything, which again speaks to the challenge that we're in, that every single one of these positions that we're cutting has merit. Every single change is unfair when we're having to make these changes to people, either actually reduce their job, eliminate their position, or change their workloads for reasons disconnected from their job performance. That's fundamentally unfair, but that's a situation that we're in. So I'm not comfortable picking and choosing. I just can't do it. For the same reason, I'm not comfortable saying blanket, there's no way I could support this ever. I just don't think that is an option long-term, because we are up against it with our fund balance. We are setting ourselves up for a position, if we don't take action, where we are going to be in the middle of a school year when you think it was bad this year, when our enrollment went down more than what we expected. We are going to be so sensitive to any small enrollment change moving forward. Every decision we don't make just makes this more chaotic and more painful next year, which, by the way, we still have, what, a $2 million proposed deficit, or projected deficit for next year. And I know that sounds cold and callous, it's not fair, but that is simply the reality that we're in. Nobody wants to be here, but again, long way of saying that's why I just can't support that.
Thank you for your comments.
And none of this is going to be fun. We have to make cuts. In reality, there was two options, right? Like, we could have went to operational referendum like a bunch of our neighbors and asked the community if they wanted their taxes raised. We didn't feel like that was in the best interest, right? So we have to go and find efficiencies and make hard decisions. And I'm comfortable with this proposal as is. And I support what Dr. Ford just said. And this will not be, there's nothing easy about any one of these cuts in here, but we can't put it off forever. I mean, sometimes, as bad as this is, or whatever, sometimes people on boards have to be the bad person that cuts things. Sometimes you got to make the tough call and take the heat, so that a district can come in line financially and move forward. And I understand everything Dr. Herzog said about those positions, and I agree with that. And I agree there'll be a tremendous loss, right? Like, I'm not going to dispute that. And because this isn't easy, right? Like, no one wants to sit up here and cut anyone's job or anyone's position. But we have to. I mean, and we have to do that in a way that impacts the students the least. And the community can probably debate about that for 45 years as to what impacts the students and staff the least, right? Like, but at the end of the day, this all impacts students. And we're just trying to pick out what's going to impact them and the staff the least, hopefully. So, I'm a no.
I just want to point out, or maybe it's a clarifying question, so it's for sure an open session. Did administration receive those alternative proposals from the media center, and did you evaluate them?
I
Yes.
received one.
Okay,
I
yeah,
think
that's the
Barb
one I'm
said
aware of
two,
too. I don't know if
right?
there were two.
I think there were two.
Can you read what we are voting on, please?
All I have down is motion to probe 172232 for the second meeting in February. Herzog made the motion, Wyman seconded it.
Okay, thank you.
So here's my struggle, is the thing about the overall proposal that I can't get over is the 27-1. It is that we had the elective teachers going to 6 out of 7 classes, and none of us liked that. It was unfair. And now we're pointing to a formula, and I fully trust you guys that you'll be able to get there. Absolutely, that's easy. Just start cutting. My dilemma is I don't know what it is that we're actually voting on then. That positions have to go. You know, Dr. Coleman, you'd said, I think it was you, maybe it was Mr. Gerke. Somebody said something about the fact that maybe that's going to mean 2 math teachers. Well, I don't know what that is. In part, I kind of feel like what we have done is we have traded something that got a bunch of people up in arms for something that I can't define, but nobody's coming and arguing about because no teacher knows that it's them that's on that list. And so I can't get behind supporting this whole thing until I know what does that come to? What does that actually equate to? And so I say that now, in part to kind of go, one, I think Molly was asking for more transparency, and I would like that too on some other things. And I go, well, maybe if I had that information and that coincided with what Dr. Herzog is asking for a month from now, that I could get behind the whole thing. But then I also appreciate that you said you want to some extent, you want to be able to give people the chance to go make the move, but, so that's where I'm kind of the opinion, I do want to wait, but not necessarily just because of what Dr. Herzog was asking for, but so that I can understand that 27-1, what are we actually voting on? Because, let's be honest, 27-1 isn't anything new, that is our policy, you know? So, we're not voting on anything new, it's just an implementation of that. I want to know, what are we actually cutting?
Dr. Hess, if it's helpful, first of all, I would have never, I know you're a mathematician, so I would have never said we're going to come back.
I get that, I get that.
But the reality is our primary mechanism by which we would achieve the reductions that would result in student and staff ratios being closer to 21 would be through attrition. Certainly, there is a possibility that current positions that exist may be reduced, and there's an unknown about that. But it is our position that the primary mechanism by which we would achieve that would be through not filling positions in attrition, if that is manageable.
And I respect that, but if you come and tell me 4 science teachers are leaving North next year, well, that decimates North.
Right.
So.
That happened a few years ago, they got through it. They all retired at the same time.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I just want to clarify, like in that situation, it doesn't mean that we're not going to hire people back, right? Like we'll work through those ratios as we go.
You are correct in that it's not a new process. This isn't an initiative, it's not this is how schools stay right-sized, is when they staff and when they schedule and when they look at their enrollment, they're planning these things out regularly. And we have to do a much better job of staying tight to where we need to be in order to meet our budgetary responsibilities. It's not new. That's why I think staff are like, this is normal, this is the staffing process. We just haven't been tight to that process for what I can tell is a long time. And now is the point where we're at a budget where we have to stay tight to that, which will mean when somebody retires or when somebody moves on, we don't fill those positions. And we look proactively ahead at numbers and schedules to have this earmarked out in front, so we're not sitting here going, we didn't know this was coming, and we have to be reactionary to it.
Okay, can we vote on Dr. Herzog's?
On the motion?
On the motion, yeah.
Smiltney?
No.
Wright?
No.
Wyman?
No.
DeWitt?
No.
Ford?
No.
Herzog?
Aye.
Hess?
Aye.
Motion fails.
Okay, we are moving back to our original motion, and that is the budget reduction as shown. Any further comments before we vote?
No.
I just want to say thank you very quickly to everyone who reached out to us, everybody who participated, all my fellow colleagues here. I mean, obviously, we all have to do better. Anyone watching at home, you might notice there's some divisions in this district. But if you live in Oshkosh, you realize there's divisions in this community about what we want out of our school district. So I respect the fact that we have those differences of opinions because they reflect the differences of opinions in our community about what public education should be. And this is a reckoning, and this stinks, and it's awful that it took a budgetary crisis to get to a reckoning. But maybe it's an opportunity for us to really refocus on the core deliverables of this school district. Those core values that Molly articulated very well. Accountability, transparency, and performance, that we can stop focusing on secondary issues, some of the culture war stuff that has, frankly, in my opinion, derailed us from talking about things like finances that maybe we would have been better prepared to deal with this. But again, that's just my opinion. But anyways, just thank you, everybody, and sorry that we have to go through this.
Call the roll, please.
Okay, so for Resolution 4, Wright?
Yes.
Wyman?
Aye.
DeWitt?
No.
Ford?
Aye.
Herzog?
Aye.
Hess?
No.
Smiltney?
No.
Resolution carries with a vote of 4-3.
Okay, moving on to approval or opposition of the Wisconsin Association of School Boards resolution. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
So I can initiate discussion. So this one, I'm the delegate at the WASB convention next week, and I have to kind of vote on behalf of the board on each of these resolutions. Normal would be, well, and the recommendation from Dr. Davis and I, after working through them, is that we would recommend that I be directed to vote to support any of these resolutions. The resolutions are not at all, they're basically giving direction to what WASB as an association will lobby for in the next year. So we are of the opinion that we would be comfortable with voting yes on all of the resolutions, except we have to decide between resolution 10 and 11 because they are in opposition to each other. One is supporting decoupling of public and private school funding. One is opposing decoupling. My recommendation, and we have as much discussion if we want to keep going on fun stuff, was opposing the decoupling. So I would be seeking that I would vote yes on 1 through 9, and then yes on 11 and 12, no on 10. And the rationale for that was that although the idea of decoupling is not a bad one, and hopefully if it goes that way, it'll work out fine. The idea of, we thought at this point was best to keep the information about public and private school funding together because it actually increases accountability. It would be on everything would it be on? I'm sorry, I forgot, like the textbook, right?
Yeah, I'm working with the city administrator to be able to get the voucher amount actually printed as a note on the tax bill, similar to Green Bay, Superior, Kaukauna did that this year also. So we anticipate being able to do that next year.
So
I'm sorry, I was distracted here. Sorry. So you're saying your recommendation is to oppose decoupling?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that because I think one of the issues concerning decoupling is a great concern about transparency and a great increase in money for the voucher program.
And to be fair, both resolutions, I'm hoping for transparency from the opposite viewpoints. Yeah, so we thought that at this point where we are in our budgetary things across the state, it was best not to decouple. Okay.
I'll say I'm of a different opinion. I'm in favor of supporting the resolution to decouple voucher funding because I think really all that means is that we'll be funding the statewide voucher program in the future the same way we do the Milwaukee voucher program, which is through state general purpose revenue rather than a reduction in school aid coupled with our local property tax offset. And because it's a state program, and even though we're having that money passed through us, or it's the aid reduction that we're offsetting with property tax, we don't have any say what happens in those schools. So I would argue that the accountability piece is more important, that it exists in state GPR. I think I want to point out that the latest analysis from the State Legislative Fiscal Bureau, so the budget agency for the legislature, shows that action would reduce the property tax levy for OASD by about $3 million. Now, to be clear, taxpayers in the state are still paying for the cost of the voucher program. So, but to me, it makes more sense to have that paid through a state GPR account than having this confusing aid reduction and property tax offset. And I think more important, it takes a confusing political issue that poisons the local education finance debate off the table. So that would be my preference. But
I realize now that I had said I would talk to Dr. Ford about this at the time, and I forgot.
No,
so I
that's
apologize
okay.
for that.
I'm not
We
pleasant
would have
to
gotten
talk to.
clarity on this one. I don't know how strong. I don't feel that strongly on this issue. I'll take whichever direction is.
And I think it's split across the, I would anticipate it'd be pretty split
Yeah,
across the
I have no
delegation
idea.
Probably means there
across
will
the-
not be a
across the
recommendation to be
state.
regular.
yeah, honestly, I think there's some politics at play here where it's a convenient thing to keep it as is because then it's a nice blame game to say that we can blame vouchers for all of our financial challenges. But that's just my opinion.
Okay, I mean.
But I want to hear what other people have to say.
Yeah, do you have any opinions on it?
I'm one man.
I agree with Dr. Ford. I feel like, but there's other things in here that I'm not excited by, so.
I know, I saw that report card one, Tim, and I thought of you.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, you
I
can
can
instruct me
support that.
You can instruct me to vote differently if you want. I also, just so everyone is very aware, this is my first year being a delegate in this. I don't anticipate being actively involved in the debate. And I also don't, we'll see if that works. But I also don't think that just because we pass these resolutions or vote a certain way, that it really will determine to any kind of policy in the state.
That's true.
So we'll say, point at that, and so we don't have to spend too much time.
Well-
I will take whatever direction you want me to take.
It will help define the legislative goals of the WASB staff.
Yeah.
And so to that degree, there is input. And every delegate has the right to go to the microphone and speak for or against any resolution.
One time, I don't think I'm ready to do it this time.
Okay, so where are we at with this? We've discussed, are we supporting?
I'm fine if you choose, if you want me to support 10,
I mean, I'll make a motion that we support 10.
okay. But, so I think well, how do we fix that?
I can move it.
Can we just say that we vote?
Yeah,
Because it was
I
just
think we
to
just-
give me direction, I think
Yeah,
that's the
I'm okay with
motion.
that.
Yeah, that's all.
I mean,
So
I see
support
both
10, not
sides.
11.
Yeah. The other one you should probably get input on is number 12, because that goes against the WASB practice of not having resolutions that dictate policy decisions to the WIAA.
Oh.
That is an independent group.
I don't remember, so 12 was, yes, it's about WIA.
12.
And let me see what their suggestion is. I will take whatever direction you want me to take on that.
I say hear them out and make the best decision.
Yeah.
We certainly want the WIA to be kind of a separate,
Right.
like their own, and not imposing WASB's will onto the WIA.
Yes.
That's, we want to make sure of that. So we can.
Yeah, Barb, yeah, can you talk to me and or Brian and just help me figure out, I'm happy to go whichever way you.
And I trust Barb and Molly
Yeah.
completely.
Yes.
Well, there was one last year, I think that might have had to do with, I don't remember, I'm not going to speculate because I'm not sure now. But that one was voted down for the same rationale that we didn't believe as a WASB organization that we should tell another organization how to run
Makes sense.
run themselves.
That's,
I mean, we wouldn't want them to tell the WSB how to run things, so
It's true.
yeah.
why should we tell them how to run things?
Excuse me.
Okay, so we have a motion for number 5, and we have a second. And how are we going to word this with approval or opposition resolutions? Because we have 2 that we probably have
So we
very
think we fixed the
specific.
resolution to that, I just have to vote how you guys direct me to vote.
Yeah, I think we can direct
Okay.
Molly to be able to.
And so it sounds like I'll follow up with Barb on 12, and we'll vote for 10, not, in opposition to 11. If we even get to those, we'll see how this.
She's going to talk to Barb about number 12, and we will vote, she will represent us in voting for number 10, not 11.
Okay, and who made the motion?
I think me,
I'll second it.
And Ford?
yeah.
What are we voting on? Are we voting on an amendment?
Just,
No,
or
you're
we're
just
just voting
voting, you're
on
just
the-
voting
the
to tell
collection
me
of the
that
overall
I'm
collection.
following those directions.
They were giving
I mean-
Molly our,
Discretion.
yeah.
Marie?
Yeah.
Wyman?
Aye.
DeWitt?
Go
Aye.
Molly.
Ford?
Aye.
Herzog?
Aye.
Hess?
All right.
Miltley?
Aye.
Wright?
Yeah.
Motion carries.
Yeah.
Okay, any requests for future agenda items? Okay.
I would
yes.
like to propose that we look into our listening session format follow-up. I know we get summaries afterward, but we've had people who come before us in listening session over and over again, And there doesn't seem to be any follow-up or resolution, so I'd like to propose that we take a look at how we operate or govern that way, as far as follow-up. I don't have a problem with the minutes, but if people have to come back repeatedly and they convey that they feel nothing is happening, then I think we have to make some changes.
Thank you for that.
So maybe that's a policy and governance issue.
I think it is. And I think it might be the policy we just edited.
In practice,
Yeah,
yeah.
in
Yeah,
practice,
we can work through that.
We'll work through that, yeah.
Okay. And announcements, I'd like to echo what Dr. Ford said about thank you, community, thank you, staff, thank you, everyone that put some time and effort into the budget. Especially thank you to all the people that reached out via email. I'm not big on social media, but I wrote a lot of email responses. So however people were able to contact us, I'm really glad that you did, and thank you for your involvement. Okay, we will now be adjourning to executive session, and in the executive session will be 1, considering disciplinary data of a specific person, and 2, considering employment, promotion, compensation, performance evaluation of a public employee. Sorry.
I mean, I guess we do.
I'm so sorry, I can't hear you guys.
Chris Wright.
And who was the second?
Wyman.
And everybody was taking a side.
DeWitt?
Aye.
That would have been the better choice.
Ford?
Aye.
Jeffrey, can you please stop for a second? We're still in the middle of this. Herzog? Aye. Hess?
Aye.
Smeltley?
Aye.
Wright?
Aye.
Wyman?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned to executive session.
Sorry.
That's all right.